Thanks. Great to be here for the second day of the Congress. Good discussions yesterday with colleagues and members of the audience, and looking forward to the second day. So today I'll be discussing lessons learned from our AI experiments that we have quite plenty of. And I'll give you an overview of what we do, and then I give you one concrete example of how it actually works, these experiments. So my current role is pretty much to help city employees to experiment with new technologies, such as AI, software robotics, data analytics, and such, to improve city services and processes. That's the idea. And also I've been involved in driving customer-centric culture as part of our digitalization program. So yesterday I was giving a presentation about design systems and data. If you missed that, you can check it out later online. And also earlier, I worked as a project manager to create our Helsinki region open data service. Bit about city of Helsinki. We are the capital and largest city in Finland. Population around 650,000 and growing. And what we do, we have a lot of responsibilities as a Finnish municipality. So we provide hundreds of services to citizens, ranging from social and healthcare to education, urban environment, culture and leisure, and city administration. So a lot of work in terms of digitalization, but I guess a lot of opportunities, let's say, for AI to improve things. And we are the largest employer in Finland, having 38,000 employees. So employees really are a key asset that we have. And it's crucial that more and more people understand what it means, for example, to be involved in AI projects and what are their possibilities. Role of digitalization, we strive to be a functional and sustainably growing city. So to achieve this goal, we need to make the best use of digital technologies. So understanding customer needs, proper usage of data, robotization, and AI are some key ingredients in achieving this. And we operate based on openness and transparency, because we feel that AI in cities really depends on the trust of the citizens. Citizens need to understand when we use new technologies, how they function, especially if they more and more are in part of decision making. And if you are interested in our digital agenda, you can check it out online on our digitalization website. But pretty much, we have three main areas where we want to improve. It's providing more proactive and personalized services for citizens, also improving efficiencies in our processes, and then helping city decision makers to make better decisions using data. One concrete thing we are doing, actually together with City of Amsterdam, is this AI register. So the idea is, as said, that AI should be transparent and human-centric. So we created this AI register. It basically shows what kind of production systems we have utilizing AI. Currently we have a handful, many are chatbots, and then we also have this intelligent library automation system. So idea is that you can go to the register, see which data sets were used in that system, how the data is processed. Also, we want to make sure that nobody is discriminated. How do we make sure of that? How is the human oversight being handled, and what are the potential risks? If citizens are worried, they can contact us. But this we are doing, Amsterdam is doing as well. I understand Martin's team, people there are also working on similar register. So good way to be transparent about this. But as said, we have a lot of employees, and we want to help city employees to learn more about AI. So roughly 2 years ago, we founded this internal experimentation accelerator. In Finnish, it's called kokeilukiihdyttämö, and it's part of our digitalization program. So what it aims is to help city employees to conduct rapid experiments utilizing digital technologies such as AI, software robotics, and data analytics. And the way it works is that we have campaigns for the city employees saying that, hey, now you have 1 month time. If you have an idea a problem that relates to your area, you want to improve something for the citizens, or you want to improve the processes, now is your chance. We help you to create an experiment proposal together with our partnering companies. And then there is 90 days from the actual idea to the experiment. And we have internal budget for this. During the 2 years, we have now spent roughly 300,000 euros and conducted 30 experiments. So the experiments are 10,000 euros each. So it's easier to procure. They are small experiments, but this is the kind of money that you can actually, when you use it very focused, you can learn a lot from the technologies. So the output is not a production system. It basically is lessons learned from the experiments. But the idea is that these lessons learned are really helpful when thinking of doing things on a larger scale. As said, there is 30 experiments. I can't go through all of them, but here's a handful of examples. Our social and healthcare sector receives tens and thousands of customer feedback each year. So their AI is helping to detect where there are potential problems. Customer service should be improved. So that's one area, and they have found this very, very useful. Other one is a city cultural events recommendation service called Löytö. So basically a recommendation algorithm. City has a lot of events, cultural events that for the citizens, and to be able to understand which events citizens prefer, this algorithm could recommend them and be better and better at it. And this is actually something that we have now, our data team is working on these kind of algorithms using the lessons learned from this experiment. Other one is assisting civil servants in providing job counseling work to citizens. So going through all the materials for civil servants that they need to do their counseling work to help them to get quicker the information needed to do their work. Fourth one is a work shift planning experiment for social and healthcare employees using software, robotics, and AI. In our social and healthcare sector, I believe there are over 15,000 employees. So you can imagine if we could use work shift planning in some cases, it might improve efficiencies, and also you could argue that perhaps if trained properly, the AI could be more neutral than a human for this. So these are the kind of things we are looking for to understand. And then this last one is something I will go into more detail. It's using machine learning, machine vision, to recognize city pedestrian crossings from aerial photos that are actually open data. And common thing for all these experiments that we have funded and conducted is that the proposals, the problem definition, the learning objectives and experimentation plan, they are clearly defined and properly scoped. And that's where we do help in the beginning to get as good quality proposals as possible, so we learn as much as possible. So here is an example using machine learning to recognize pedestrian crossings from aerial photos. I will tell you soon why we do this, why this is something that we have been interested in doing. This is something that we did with the City of Helsinki Urban Environment Division in charge of urban planning, infrastructure maintenance, and so on, and together with a company called Integrify. So what we do, as said, is we actually purchase these experiment reports. So when we conduct this experiment during, let's say, 3 months, the output is a report that shows the success of the experiment. Let's say if we want to understand whether it makes sense to use machine vision in scanning aerial photos to see where all the pedestrian crossings are and whether this is useful, then if we get an answer to that, it's basically successful. We also, in this report, we asked the teams to describe the timeline and the outputs of the experiments, and importantly, learnings from the potential of AI, learnings from the developing of AI, and learnings from the experimentation process itself. So this is also educational thing. We want to introduce more and more kind of experiential way of developing to our city and city employees. So what are the learnings from that? And then learnings from the resources needed, description of technical environment, and key findings and next steps. So this is in order for us if we want to actually replicate this, improve this, or take it into a production. It's described the way it was done. So this is what we do. So here, the idea for this experiment is that it showed that it is possible to use machine learning to recognize pedestrian crossings from aerial photos. So those photos are very high resolution photos as open data. You can download from our Helsinki region open data portal. And these are helpful when such infrastructure data is not already available. So city might not actually have a database of all the infrastructure like pedestrian crossings. So we can use machine vision to actually get a catalog of the infrastructure. In this case, utilizing the algorithm, the team compared open aerial photos from years 2015 and 2019, and it can show the depreciation of the infrastructure, which is useful because then you understand, okay, what is the condition of city-owned property, and this is important for maintenance planning and smart city projects. And here, I said we want to be open. We publish data openly, and also the source code in many cases. So this material here from this experiment, it was published to our City of Helsinki GitHub service, if you're interested to have a look. So the thing here is that with the help of an AI expert company, city employees learned how to utilize machine learning and cities' own data more effectively. So this is important. We have a lot of data, but how to use it effectively. And we found out that the machine learning model, it can be further taught to recognize other infrastructure objects as well, not just pedestrian crossings. And this model, of course, within such a small experiment, it's not perfect. But the lessons learned from this are really valuable when implementing larger digitalization projects related to city infrastructure management and smart traffic. And on our open data portal, there is a nice blog post about this in Finnish. You can have a look and use a Google Translate to translate it if you want. So the value of the experiment so far, after conducting these during a few years, the feedback we get is that the city employees, they have gained a better understanding of what current AI is capable of. There's lots of potential, but also demystifying it. Like, it's not gonna replace you. It's more like your friend who can help to do things better. Of course, it's constantly evolving, and what you do 1 or 2 years ago might be obsolete already. But still really getting an understanding what it actually means in practice, learning by doing. And not surprisingly, probably, is that these experiments, they have helped to understand the importance of data in creating new solutions and the ethical questions related to teaching AI. For example, if you create an algorithm and you teach it based on certain text or certain aspects, you actually might create a bias, as also Martin discussed earlier. And this is really important to understand when you are creating such solutions. So it's a good lesson learned. These experiments have also helped to create more use cases for putting our new data strategy into action. So also highlighting to the management, okay, this is actually things that you need more data, or you need to improve the quality of data in order, for example, to get the most out of AI. When we do these experiments, we usually have teams of 10 doing them parallel. So when the experiment starts, we actually have this kind of review every 3 weeks. So the teams learn from each other. So every time we meet, we reflect, okay, what was done, what are some of the obstacles, what are some of the lessons learned, and what we need to do next. And in many cases, the teams actually learn from each other. They might have a different use case, but they might run into similar problems. So this has, in such a city that we have many sectors and still probably a lot of silos, it has realized or highlighted the need for cross-cooperation, which is really useful. And also to show how to work with companies. This is a new thing for many. How do you work with technology companies, for example? And I would say overall, this has sort of led to a better understanding of experimentation approach to developing new innovations that we want to do. It's not just about using AI or technology, but actually how you innovate and how you do it in the sort of while you're doing your other normal work. And I think the key thing here is that when doing these quick experiments, spending 10,000 euros, you learn a lot about the solution prior larger investments. So if you need to do it on a larger scale, you have a better understanding and you probably can avoid a lot of mistakes. So some challenges to overcome, of course. We do these experiments and then what happens? We hope that the lessons learned from the experiments actually spread across our large organization to the teams, to the divisions, to the city decision makers. A lot of this has to do about internal communication. And even though we are just purchasing these experimentation reports, of course, many have an idea of to go into actual production. So how do we move from production, from experiments to production, quickly enough, not wanting to lose momentum? That's something that we've discussed a lot with our digitalization unit and data team, how we can actually anticipate the outcome of these experiments and then the really promising ones that have a lot of potential, how to help them to bridge the gap from the experiment to production and increasing capabilities there. So really, challenge is to create capabilities in terms of human resources and technical infrastructure to enable these AI-powered services citywide where they bring most value. And we are working on this. We are hiring, for example, more data scientists and data engineers into our data team to be able to provide these capabilities citywide. And probably last but not least, there is a lot of ethical questions related to user data to enable more personalized services with the help of AI. We are creating this Helsinki profile that ultimately, using my data principles, would allow us to provide citizens more personalized services with their permission, and also AI has a lot of potential there. Some challenges, but working on it. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and if you're interested to know more, just grab my hand, send me a question. Thank you.